Not the other way around.
not the other way around. What does the mind act like? Everybody uses it for a filter, right? This guy at the gym I go to comes up to me, and starts giving me the Jesus spiel. I've heard it a million times. It's always the same. Hearing the Jesus spiel from him. Well, I got this book I want you to read. And he was really nice and friendly, right? And he gives me this book. I found it to be boring. I found it to be not done in this true spirit of journalism. And he says, "Hey, what'd you think about that book?" "Yeah, didn't do it for me." Then he stopped talking to me altogether. It's all in his mind. There was no wanting to get to know me. It was, if I accept what he thinks is true, then me and him are going to be friends. But if I don't, we're not. There's no communication there. There's no reason to have that friendship. Because what's it based on? Nothing.
Well, this would be a good time to talk about love, because people approach love the same way, right? If
Mentally.
certain conditions are met, then I love you. But you break those conditions, and no, we're done.
It's not love.
Right.
See, a lot of people say, "Well, I'm in love with her." No, you're not. You're satisfied when you're around. You feel satisfied when you're around her. Which kind of makes me go, are you an energetic vampire? Are you just sucking the life out of this person, and you're calling it you're in love because it's making you feel good? That's kind of dangerous, really, to have that idea, because what's it based in? Nothing. There's no knowledge about it. There's no facts about love. There's none. It has nothing to do with the mind. The mind can't even touch it. Tries to, and it, like you said, a lot of people are doing it through the mind. That's not love. It's manipulation. Period. If you love somebody, you've communicated with them.
And it's unconditional.
And it's unconditional. You either love them or you don't.
They can, no matter what they do, and the worst thing you can imagine that they do, wouldn't change that.
No. Might make you go, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this?" Might make you do that. But it doesn't change. I mean, asking that question, to me, shows love. What are you doing? Not yelling it. Just, "Hey, I'm a little nervous about this. What are you doing?" That, yeah. But that's not a condition. That's a question. That's a communication. From one being to another. "Hey, I'm a little slightly confused about what it is you're about." Isn't that communicating? The other way of doing it is just, not know, but pretend it's that there's nothing really going on about your doubt or whatever. But two people to, love? Woohoo, this big word. The word doesn't mean a damn thing.
Right.
At all. It doesn't mean anything. Right? The mind, the minute you say love, the mind goes after definition. Well, okay, so it's defined it. It still hasn't done it. It still doesn't know what it feels like. Right? Because it thinks love is when its needs are met. That's love. Right? No, that's satisfaction. Love is having your satisfaction. Right? And doing what you can to ease the pain of someone else with it. Really. To be there for them. Carlos was there for me in the midst of probably the biggest challenge of my life. There he was. I didn't even know it was there until he pointed it out. Because, prior to meeting him, I was getting adored. People loved me. It was great. I had these old guys like, "You're like the Maharaj." That went straight to my head. And I was loving it. It was great. And then Carlos came along and said, "That's really neat, huh? But what about this?" And I got to experience all my stuff. I went, whoa. That's not a solid foundation at all. That's kind of a contradiction. He's like, yeah, that's a contradiction, all right. He's like, "Do you understand what impeccability is?" I'm like, "No, I obviously don't." He's like, "You will, eventually. Depends on how hard you want to work for it. Some don't. Some, it's an occurrence for them on a Tuesday night or when they go to their group meeting. But for others, it's 24. It's all day. It's every day of their life. It's push, because it's like, think about it. I mean, one day you wake up, right, and you're alive and you're awake and your soul's on fire and you realize, because you see it clearly, the life's eternal. You're going to be alive forever. Makes you go, well, all this crap that's going on that I don't like, that means it could go on forever too. Unless I do something about it. And what makes it totally unworthwhile doing all that crap, is that it could go on forever with no purpose at all. You know? Then you're like, well, and you've seen that life is eternal. You've seen a way it could be. It makes you really look at the way it is for you if it's bad, you know, if it's not balanced, it's not in integrity. It really makes you look at that. Because you know what you're missing out on. And you know you're going to be missing out on it until you're done with this. Right? And this could feasibly go on forever. Why? Because life's eternal. Right? So your choice of constantly returning to your muck could go on forever. You know, it's like Solomon said. You know, like a dog returning to his own vomit, so is the fool who returns to his own folly. That's exactly what he meant. You don't keep going back to that. You know, eventually, you start to see that you're doing that, and you understand that you're not impeccable. You have no integrity. You have no center. You have no balance. You have no stability. You have no love. Right? That's when the work starts. That's really, I think you could say, when someone truly becomes something, is they access what love really is. And it is the most offensive thing to your judging, egoic mind. It's so offensive to it. Because it sees you as just, you know, being reckless. Right? When you're being what you are. You are just your heart. That's all you are. You know, you feed that. Right? You work with that and pay attention to that, you experience heaven. You work against that, it pretty much feels like hell. Simple. Right? They're just polarities of this existence that we have access to. You know, from the base being just doldrum and bored and, you know, morose, all the way up to Jesus. Well, everything in between. They have access to all of it, you know.
Yeah, I've heard you say that the height of your bliss is in the depth of your sorrow.
Uh-huh.
And talking about, well, being honest for one thing, but people have, it's not all pink and fluffy, right?
No.
You have a dark side that's real.
Right. You've done things that are real.
And dark.
Yes.
And you can't just sweep them under the rug.
No.
So how does that work? How do you come to terms with that darkness?
You take your light into it. You take what you know yourself to be for real, and you look in there, and you realize you had no idea who you were. That you had this illusion that you were in control, but you weren't. And you see what you did. Right? The best thing to do is, if it's still capable of being resolved, do so. Right? The soul always mourns its lack of resolve, an issue being resolved. When one can't, that has to be gone through. That has to be, you have to experience what it is you put on somebody else. Right? You have to make amends for that. Not to any creature, not to any God, because your soul can't live with it. Right? So